Yep.
I am very happy to be talking with you about this because to me, the history of what we as a people have done for the country and what we learn as we go along is very important. So to me, thank you.
Yeah, it's a blessing for us to have that conversation with us at this, what I feel is a very pivotal time for us all. It's important to hear those voices.
When I was little and older people would say, child, going somewhere, get out of grown folks' faces. Get out of grown folks' business. But at other times, when I would sit with my mom and my aunts, and they would tell stories. And I always wanted to know their stories, which is part of what got me to be a storyteller. Listening to what they would say and how they would say it. And just questions that I wanted to know from them. How did you do this when you were growing up? You know, meeting the black woman who delivered most of the babies in the community. And I just always thought Miss May Gregory was a great singer. I loved to hear her sing because she was on the choir with my grandfather. My grandfather led the choir. And later I found out this was a black midwife that delivered more than half the people in that whole community in South Carolina. But what I knew her as is a woman who could sing and be on the choir and could get you involved in what was going on, but she brought babies and life into this world. So, just a little bit.
That's good. All right. I like that. Let's talk.
Okay.
Welcome to the Game is Evolved podcast, where legacy meets evolution. This is a space where we shine a light on individuals whose lives, leadership, and voices are making a positive impact in their communities and the world around them. These conversations are rooted in truth, purpose, and humanity, honoring the journey while inspiring what's next.
Today, we are honored to welcome Bea Thompson, an industry pioneer whose vision, strength, and powerful storytelling helps reshape the media landscape and elevate black women as trusted voices in the news industry. As the first black female television news anchor in Charlotte, North Carolina, Bea Thompson didn't just break barriers. She opened doors with excellence, integrity, and purpose. Her voice has informed generations. Her legacy continues to inspire others and provide platforms for young black women who are interested in a career in the news reporting. We're delighted to have you here. Thank you for bringing your many years of expertise and excellence and experience to the show today.
I appreciate you inviting me and letting me be a part of this podcast so that we could have this conversation. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I told you when we had our earlier conversation how excited I was about it, and talking with our good common friend Kevin Warlaw that this was to us a monumental moment and having conversations that matter. But before we get started, I don't know how comfortable you're going to feel with this, but the listeners and viewers need to know who we're speaking with. So I'm going to read down this little list.
Okay.
Little highlights here.
Little highlight reel. Bea Thompson, first black female television news anchor in Charlotte, making history in 1980 at WBTV Channel 3. Spent more than 40 years serving her hometown of Charlotte, a rare and powerful commitment to broadcast media. Anchored morning and midday newscasts at WBTV and co-hosted the entertainment program Black Stage After Dark. Served as morning news anchor at NBC Charlotte and on an 11-year run that included reporting the broadcast specials. Became a corporate spokesperson for Duke Power and Duke Energy, now known as Duke Energy, specializing in environmental issues and public engagement. Currently serves as a news and public affairs director at WBAV V101.9 CBS Radio, host of top-rated daily news program The Front Page with Bea Thompson, host of the highly rated talk show Straight Talk with Bea Thompson, host of Quiet City Limits, a television show produced in operation with the City of Charlotte, recipient of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Black Women's Caucus Trailblazer Award, recipient of the National Crystal Award from the National Association of Broadcasters for outstanding local public affairs, programming, and outreach. 2025 inductee to the National Black Radio Hall of Fame, Charlotte chapter. And that's a congrats right there on this entire legacy. 2025 inductee into the Order of Trojan, recognizing outstanding alumni of Olympic High School. served on numerous boards and advisory committees, reflecting deep community trust and leadership. Recognized not only for journalistic excellence, but for integrity, truth, and service to the community. Most proudly, she is the mother of Jamila Omari Rashid, whom she credits as her greatest joy and accomplishment. I need a drink of water after that. I don't have any water, but we get where we're going now. Thank you again.
Thank you for all you've done. With Tracy highlighting your many accomplishments. So let's talk about who Bea Thompson is today.
Okay. Well, today I am someone who looks at this next chapter and level of my life. I've always been in broadcasting. The story behind that is simply I see my life as the changes in education and civil rights in the South. I was born in 1954, Brown versus Board of Education.
Yes.
When I entered school in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, in the first grade around 1961 or so, Charlotte, Mecklenburg became one system. Mecklenburg County had a school system, Charlotte had a school system. They joined together. It didn't necessarily include the black schools. You started closing down some of the black schools that were not counted because you had the separate yet not equal. We had not completely done that yet. In going to school, I went to Isabella White Elementary School. Isabella White, which is in 3rd Ward. In 3rd Ward was Good Samaritan Hospital, the first hospital built in the 1890s for African Americans in North Carolina. Good Sam was being built at the same time the Biltmore House was being built. Growing up down the street from Good Sam, I saw black professionals, doctors, nurses. My father was a mechanic. My mom was a maid. They had moved to North Carolina from South Carolina. I found out about changes when urban renewal came through, and I always referred to it as urban removal. I came home from school one day, there were notes on everybody's doors that we had 30 days to move. That was my introduction to urban renewal. I was a very angry child because we didn't know where anybody was going to go. There was no redevelopment department. There was no community neighborhood department that would have helped residents find someplace else to go. Keep in mind, this was 1965. So as an angry child, I'm wondering, where are our friends going? Where are we going? I also found out at that time, the only ones who won with the integration part were realtors because they were key to white flight from neighborhoods in the South. The methodology was you get one black family into a neighborhood, then you go to all the white families and tell them, sell your house now because they're coming. You're not going to get any value for your house if you don't. You put one black family in a neighborhood and said, oh, here's an opportunity for you. But you didn't give them great deals on the house. So we saw that. All of that went into me saying, what was I going to do with myself when I grew up? And I decided to tell everything that I knew simply because no one was telling us anything. You were just making us move, but you weren't telling us anything about why we had to move. So I felt like I needed to be able to tell everybody, this is what's happening. Pay attention. That's
interesting that you said something about white flight. We was in, what was it, in Alabama that year. We saw all the, sell them. We saw all that emptiness there and all that let down after all that went on there. How that area is just down now. So that's interesting you brought that up.
And I find it very interesting that all of the white flight that took place in the 60s, they were trying to get away from us. Ironically, they're all trying to come back into the cities now and say these are the neighborhoods we want to be in, and you're running black people out of those neighborhoods that you abandoned, and we stayed for.
Every strong voice is shaped somewhere. There's some foundational truth with those strong voices. And you mentioned your parents. How did the values they placed inside of you shape who you are, and how that carried you into your lifelong association with where you are now in business and where you are in media?
Both my parents emphasized to us that your word is your bond. If you say you're going to do something, do it.
My father was like that as well.
Do it. Because if you have nothing else, Keep in mind the fact that for most black people in this country, they never had credit. If you were in the Deep South and someone owned a store, usually the person who had owned that plantation or their relatives would have a store, and you could get stuff at the company store. But you never really got out of debt. If you didn't have the money, you had to prove that you were worth it. So your word was your bond. I don't have any money now, but I will in a week, and I'll come back and I'll pay you. So your word. This is what black people depended on.
You're hitting so many interesting points, because I think about the tobacco field days when we got $100 a nap.
Yep.
We work all day, and then we get that on credit, and we had to pay it at the end of the week.
And you don't have that much money because you done had to pay everything that you've been amassing throughout that time period.
So growing up in Charlotte, when did you first recognize the power of your voice and the responsibility that comes with it?
I didn't like my voice growing up because I thought I sounded like a little boy and everybody else sounded like little girls.
And that's crazy how that is a common thought with a lot of the great speakers and great voices that we hear, that they weren't comfortable with their voice.
Not with that, and also growing up in America, black did not become beautiful until around 1969. James Brown put out a song called Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And that became a mantra for me, because at that point I was in the 9th grade. We were getting ready to go into high school. Busing, keep in mind, busing for the sake of integration in North Carolina helped set, and in Charlotte in particular, set the path for a lot of other school systems around the country who used busing to integrate their school systems. So wanting to be involved in something, and what did I want to do? Well, when I was little, I really wanted to be an archaeologist or an Egyptologist. I wanted to do those things. For fun, I read the encyclopedia. That was fun to me. Book salespeople would come into neighborhoods, and the salesman came in with selling encyclopedias, and my mama got them. I'll pay you a little bit every week, but she wanted her children to be able to read about different things. So to me that was fascinating, to read, and it exposed me to things, and I learned things, and that's where my need to want to be in some other type of setting than where I was in the South. I thought I would make documentaries or something like that, if I did television. And I didn't find out about doing television until I got to about junior high school, and it was a black man, one of my teachers, Mr. John Montgomery, who encouraged me to learn more about civics, learn about government, because my parents were not in the civil rights movement. They were working class black folks. And so many black people were penalized. We know with Dr. King and the people that followed him, if you didn't have your own business, you lost a job if you were involved in civil rights. And that's how you controlled a lot of people. If you look at the civil rights movement, most of the people who were leaders had their own businesses or something where they weren't depending on a white person's paycheck, which is why they would use the threats and violence against those people, because they couldn't say, we will fire you. So that's what, if you look at most of those folks, those were the ones who could be on the front. My mama worked in a hotel. My daddy worked fixing trucks. Neither could afford to not have a job.
Right.
They didn't have the education to get something else. So I always want people to realize, with the civil rights movement, great people were leading because they had an option that somebody wasn't going to take away their livelihood. And that played a part to a great extent for a lot of people as to how much could you be involved.
Right.
So there were mentors outside of my immediate family. My parents encouraged me to do the best that I could do and gave me the foundation to say that I could do it.
Right.
Regardless what I wanted to, if I wanted to do this or somebody didn't want me to be involved. They said, you can do whatever you set your mind to.
What were some of those, or who were some of those voices? You mentioned a few. You talked about your parents, you mentioned a teacher, that continued to shape your curiosity to move forward in your life. Your curiosity, your discipline, your confidence, when you were going to Mecklenburg County schools.
First grade, Miss Daniels, a black woman who drove a Buick, a beige Buick. She always had a nice hairdo, she smelled good, and she dressed nice. I thought that was wonderful because most of the people in my neighborhood wore uniforms. But the teachers, and they were very much wanting us to be better than what was around us. Mrs. Zenobia Higgins, my 4th grade teacher. Miss Higgins was the one that exposed us to culture more so. She taught me that I should eat pistachio nuts. As a black child, I didn't have a clue what a pistachio nut was and how hard you had to get it out the shell.
Right.
She showed us how to play an auto harp, how to play piano. The first award I ever got was for an Easter egg design showing the Wizard of Oz. And Miss Hagan was the one who told me to put this together, and it won first place with Park and Rec, and they had it in the window of the library uptown. Wow. So as a little kid, that meant a lot to me. And Miss Hagan would let us come to her house, the kids who were well. She lived on LaSalle Street, where most of the black teachers lived, near West Charlotte and everything. She had white carpet. I'm a black child who's coming from 3rd Ward. It was a 3-room shotgun house we lived in, wood floors, bathroom in the back, ain't no hot water. And I went to this black woman's house, and she has white carpeting and a baby grand piano on LaSalle Street in Charlotte.
And,
so
and that blew your mind.
It really did. But she told us to be aware.
You could be what you want to be.
You could be what you want
Yes.
to be. And to be exposed to different things would increase your hunger to know more
And it's
things.
something I say to kids all the time: visualize and create your world.
Create
Somebody opening that door up so you can do that.
John Montgomery gave me that emphasis to get involved with civics. Mr. Montgomery had polio as a child. He was in a wheelchair, but he was one of the most respected teachers at York Road, which was one of the 3 black high schools in Charlotte. He was a football coach, assistant coach, and the football players would pick him up in his wheelchair and take him. The respect that they had for this black man. He had gone to York Road, but he wanted us to realize and never get lost, to understand what the civil rights movement is about. Because I'm still right here in 67, 68, 69.
Yes.
And he's making that point to us. Going from Mr. Montgomery and getting into high school, the first year was at South Mecklenburg, desegregation, 71. And they drove us, we had to come so far from Clanton Park to go to South Mecklenburg. You want to riot? You going to walk out of school? Let me see you walk them 5 miles to get back into Charlotte, because you out in the county. And we were like, okay, I guess we're going to stay in school today. We're not going to walk out because we ain't got to wait to get home.
Like, walking out meant literally a walk, and they put that pressure on you.
Yes, it was, and we were out near cow fields and pastures. That's all we saw in South Mecklenburg.
Those teachers was making sure that history wasn't lost. And that's the most important thing about history today. Sometimes they get shuffled around, but those teachers was impacting by making sure history wasn't lost.
And then helping you navigate what was, you think about it, navigate what was currently going on. It was history, but it was still, the struggle was currently going on, and they were strengthening you to navigate that.
Exactly, and it made a difference that we needed to have people who could tell the story. When we left from 3rd Ward and had those 30 days, I remember seeing signs with a big green Z on it. That made me say to people later on, you know, when you start seeing these signs showing up in your neighborhood, something is going to change. They getting ready to do something. And black folks would be famous for saying, well, they going to do what they want to do anyhow. And my response was, they ain't going to do nothing that you don't let them do. So what you going to let them do? And for me, it was to become someone who could disseminate information to people and say, once I give you that information.
Right.
My mother's response was, baby, once you tell them it's their little red wagon, they can push it or pull it. But you don't have to make up their mind for them. Just give them the information.
That's right. You got to do something with it. So, during your time at UNC Chapel Hill, were there mentors or defining moments that help shape or sharpen your purpose in storytelling?
Dr. Sonia Hayes. Sonia Hayes Stone was a black professor. Sonia looked like Angela Davis, and she had a fro. She started the African American Studies Department at Chapel Hill. I was one of the first students with some of the other black students to be a part of that. We were graduating in the spring of '77. Roots came out in the spring of '77. Dr. Stone gave all of us who were minoring or majoring in African American studies a copy of Roots and signed it for us. And today there is a building on campus that's named for her. But she wanted us not to get lost. You're on this rah-rah Carolina campus. And my freshman year, there were 5,000 students in that freshman class. We had the largest black contingent that year. We had a little under 300 out of that 5,000 in the freshman class. So you really wanted to see somebody who looked like you on campus. You didn't want to get lost in what was going on. Funny story, freshman year, I don't know if y'all remember streaking. There was a song called, Oh Yes, They Call It the Streak. Well, Carolina was setting records for streaking across campus. And one particular night, they were streaking. And you see all of these pale bodies streaking. And there's one chocolate body running along there with them. And we were like, is that a brother? Yeah, that's a brother down there with all of them. He's just running. 11 o'clock news comes on. There's a story about these kids in Chapel Hill running around with no clothes on. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call. Here's my big mama in South Carolina. She said, baby, you ain't up there with your clothes off, is you? I was like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
Leave it to Big Mama. She gonna say it straight.
You ain't up there with your clothes off, is you?
See what you're streaking through the yard.
No, we're not doing that. But it was a case of all of us. Don't get caught up in the hype of being at Chapel Hill, because you could very easily not be here. And remember who you are.
While you're there.
And that's what Dr. Stone did for us. She said, remember, don't forget who you are and what you should be doing when you leave here, the impact that you should make. So it was
So
very
important. So important.
And standing right there with impact, like education, for anyone listening to us. They might be a young person listening. What was the impact of education for you to be able to stand strong, firm, and grounded in who you are in spaces when you often were the only one that looked like you in that space?
What grounded me was the thing that my mother had said, that I could do and be whatever I set my mind to do and to be. That no one could put me out. Because my mother would say, as I said, black didn't become beautiful till 69. I had an older sister, she was always the cute one. I had a younger sister, she was going to be a size 5 till the day she died. And then there was me in the middle. And my mother would always look at me and say, yeah, but you my smart baby. You gonna do something. That was important, that somebody believed in me and said I could do it. And as much as I loved reading and wanting to learn things, I'm reading a book by Cynthia Erivo now, who played Elphaba in Wicked. And it talked about people saying, you're just too much. It's just too much. Or you question things too much. And I could identify with what she was saying because I was told I asked too many questions. I questioned one of our associate pastors when I was in elementary, getting ready to go to middle school. And my question to him was, the soul doesn't stay in a grave when you die, does it? And he was like, well, yes, it does. You stay there to that great getting up morning. I was like, I really don't think that's the way it works. I don't think the soul stays there.
That great getting up morning.
Yeah, and he was upset that I was questioning Christian and challenging what the belief system was. So he told me to hush. I didn't want to hush. I got questions. Somebody needs to answer some of this, which is why I'm going to be cremated.
There's nothing wrong with challenging.
You will not put me in a box in the ground. I'm claustrophobic. That's not happening. I know my spirit will not be there, but you will not put me in a box. And she knows that I will be burned.
You got so many people that grew up during a time where they were told not to question the status quo, and that kept so many people stuck. But the ones that questioned it were able to expand beyond where somebody wanted to keep you.
And that's the point that I made to folks. By asking questions, I learned more. I have had the opportunity to meet people who helped me to understand the curiosity that was within me and that I needed, that it helped me to grow.
But then you had also people that was planting that seed that said you could be whatever you want to be.
Whatever I wanted to be.
And as they plant that seed and lit a little fire on it, there it is.
And the other part, I felt that I needed to respect my elders who did not have an opportunity. I wanted them to know this stuff. And it was from seniors who would say to me, well, baby, I'm so proud of you, but I can understand what you be talking about on television. Because the thing for me was to phrase it, to say it as if I was having a conversation with my mom and daddy, with my big mama and my Aunt Sally. If I could say it in a way that they understood it,
Yes.
then everybody else would understand.
Peter Brown.
Exactly.
Peter Brown. So in 1980 at WBTV, you made history as the first black female television news anchor in Charlotte. When you reflect on that moment now, what stands out to you the most?
It was, I remember the day, Bill Ballard was my news director, and he had called me into his office, and I was like, that's it, they're gonna fire me. I don't know what I did, but they finna fire me. The news director has called me in. You don't get called into the news director's office unless there is something really serious going on. And BTV had an advisory board at that time. There were black people on this advisory board. It was sort of like all stations had different advisory boards. This was to appease black people. See, we have black people that are coming in. We really want everybody to understand that we're open. Yeah. So I found myself being part of that scenario to show to other black people that we do have black folks on the air. But when Bill asked me if I would do that, it made me realize that within the first 5 years of being in television, I had achieved the goals that I set for myself. And that, it made me feel that I had accomplished something.
How did it help you stay grounded and authentic with that weight on you during that time?
It was not easy because people were watching. Everything that I did, how I did it, how I said it. When I was not on the air, in my personal life, black folks will police your personal life. They do not want you cutting up or doing something. It was like you are representative of everyone. I don't know that our kids feel that nowadays, but if you were the first to do something, it's like if you look at military and the early black men who were in military and they made sure their uniforms looked the best and because they represented the culture. And I felt that heavily in being on air for BTV, that everybody was watching, but black folks in particular wanted you to do your best because you represented them.
Well, it's almost like policing you.
Yeah.
Because, I tell my daughter this all the time, that your audience, you have to be careful of your audience. Because if you put out the wrong thing, your audience will crucify you, or they'll challenge you in your thinking.
People here in Charlotte wanted to know who you dating, where you live, where you go out, who you hang out with. They wanted all of that information, and it was like your life was truly in a fishbowl, and everybody else was trying to determine how you should live your life if you're going to be. And then there were those who didn't like you. Just straight up did not like you for whatever reason. There was one young lady, I got really tickled because...
You got tickled in too thinking about it.
The guy that I was dating in high school eventually had children with her. But his mother still loved me. So when I would talk with his mom sometimes, she had said once, you know that girl won't even watch Channel 3 because you on television over there.
Still hate.
I'm like, what? I don't even know this woman. I'd never met her. But her thing was she wouldn't even watch that channel because of that. But at the same time, it made me very cognizant of, you do have to be aware. You do have to, because anybody can take your reputation and run with it up or down.
What they say, with great power, there's
great responsibility. And I felt more responsibility towards seniors and black people who did not have opportunities. That now we could open things up so that what they were not privy to before, instead of always reacting, we could act. If I gave you the information, then you could make decisions that impacted your life. You didn't have to wait till somebody came and told you you had to move, or you had to do this, or you can't do that anymore.
Right.
But you had no input in that decision that was affecting your life. So to me, it was very important that information be disseminated so we could decide what we wanted to do, not somebody tell you what you're going to do.
So important.
Beyond race, what challenges did women face in being recognized as equal talents alongside their peers?
Oh, we caught it trying to be women in the newsroom, and as a black woman, a good friend of mine, she and I were both at BTV at the same time. She had come the year before I did. She also had gone to Carolina, but she's a white woman, basically what you would be describing as a WASP, out of North Wilkesboro County. And we were talking just last year, and she said, you know, Bea, I have to say, I never thought about what you had to deal with. She said, you know, we as women, we were getting into broadcasting and everything, and, you know, Mary Tyler Moore and throwing the hat, and we're all doing that. She said, but I never thought about what you went through as a black woman at that time, that you were dealing with things that I didn't deal with, because they would look at her and think she was a little girl, and she would hate people doing that. I can do it on my own kind of thing. She said, but I didn't think about what you were running into when you went out on stories. And I did run into racists. I knew it. I interviewed people. I knew if I looked behind that door, there's a hood and a robe. I know it's back there. But you're trying to hide it.
Right.
And there would be people who would simply would not speak to me, did not want to do the story with me. I had one story in particular where I was in a county towards a little northwest of Charlotte, and the guy comes out, he speaks to my white photographer, and they're having a conversation. He never addresses me. He never acknowledges me. The photographer is uncomfortable because he's like, look, I'm just shooting a picture. She's a reporter. You got to talk to her. And I stood there and I looked at him, and I'm saying in my own head, you can act crazy if you want to. But when we finish shooting the story, I'm the heifer that's going to edit it. So you can look intelligent, or you can look like the biggest fool that ever dropped. So it's your choice.
Real recognize real.
Yeah. You can push it or pull it, but we're going to do this story.
Right.
And I had other instances where people had privilege and tried to lord that over other people. I'd done a story about abortion and had to go to Waxhaw. And this young lady was about 28, 29. She looked very anorexic. But she lived with her parents in a beautiful palatial home. So she's speaking. She believes in the John Birch Society. So she's doing the interview with me, and she's talking about how people should not kill children, why these women are doing this. And I'm looking at this heifer going, you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. You're sitting in the lap of luxury with your parents. You don't have to worry about a roof over your head. You don't have to worry about being abused. You don't have to worry about having children you cannot afford, but you stand here and pontificate to other women and telling them what they need to do. When I tell you I was sitting there grabbing the back of this chair, I'm looking at her trying to do this interview, and I'm about to pull the back of the chair off. And the photographer's behind me, and he reaches up and grabs my hand. As in, I know you're upset, but we got to do the interview. We got to calm down.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have learned over the years, you have to take yourself out of it, what my feeling was about it, and do the story. Again, not my decision to make up your mind for you. I just need to present the information that you're saying.
And what you learn sometimes, looking at the data over the years, that they may have issues with that because they went through that.
And this is true. I explained to someone once, Florence Crittenton was a home for unwed mothers that was here on Blythe Boulevard, right across from Memorial Hospital, which is now Carolina's Medical Center. The young white girls who found themselves in a certain way in other counties in North Carolina, their parents sent them to Charlotte. They stayed at Florence Crittenton until they had that baby. The baby was given up for adoption. They went back home. And the story was, well, I went to stay with my Aunt Myrtle in Utah.
Okay.
This is what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for young black girls,
Reported at the health department.
that's right.
So the numbers are able to kept accurate.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I did once I started reporting, and they would always talk about black people being on public support and everything. When I went to the health department, I'm going to find the white girl that's out there too. Because they would all get up and walk out of the building. Now they're going to take a cigarette break because they see us coming with cameras. We're doing something about social services. They get up and leave. The black women were like, you know what, I'm tired. I had to ride the bus to get over here. I need these services. I'm not trying to run from nothing. I'm trying to get what I need for me and my children. Well, I was going to make sure this was a balanced picture because statistically, there were more people of other races on public assistance than there ever was of black people. Public assistance did not start to help black people. It was started to help other people. Eventually, we started getting that assistance, but it wasn't designed for us originally to be on public service.
And that's still a discoloring of that
Yeah.
that storyline today. We still see that same storyline being discolored and put in as a disservice to our community and how we're being portrayed.
Which is why I say to every person of color who is in this industry, make sure you show a balanced picture. Not what's easiest or the picture that's easiest for you to get just because they're sitting there and they don't want to move. Show the balanced picture. You've got the statistics. If you've done the background work that you should do, you know what this picture should look like. So why are you shooting all people of one race? You're skewing in people's minds. If I can, I have to tell you
Create
this.
a divide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you the story of how the perception of people, of black people in particular, was pushed forward by media when you do not pay attention to the pictures. We got a call from the police department at 7 o'clock in the morning. They've been looking for this young man who reportedly had killed the owner of a little market in 4th Ward. The guy they were looking for, interestingly enough, had gone to my school, and I knew his name, I knew him. He wasn't the best person in the world, but I don't know whether he killed the man or not. But we get a call and say, well, we got him at the Alamo Hotel on North Tryon Street. We're going to go in and get him. If y'all want to come and take pictures, you can do it. Police department is good for doing that. It's calling media to come and get things that they've set up. We sent a reporter, a young black man, to go to that. Again, keep in mind, this is 8 o'clock in the morning. They go in there and they say, if there's anybody in that room, come out now, or we're coming in. 2 minutes later, the door opens. This young black woman runs out. She only has on her panties. She's got all her clothes, and she's bopping trying to get out of there because here come the police. He had paid for somebody, a lady of the night, to come spend the night with him. She didn't know nothing about what he was about. But when the police said, come out of there, homegirl grabbed her clothes and was getting out. 6 o'clock that evening at 5:30, 5:45, I'm walking past the edit room. What shot do I see? Because this is the lead story. They bring him out. They've got him cuffed. He's going, I didn't do it, all this stuff. We got all this great footage, all of the SWAT teams. 5:45, I look in the edit room. What shot do I see? I stopped in my tracks. I'm like, wait a minute. She had nothing to do with this. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why is there a shot of this black woman coming out of this crime scene with no clothes on, and you're going to put that on the air? And I looked at the brother who was the reporter on the street. I'm like, hey, you lost your mind. Why are you doing this? It's just a 3-second shot. They won't see it. I said, I can say my name and title in 3 seconds. Why would you put that shot in there? Well, it's the lead story and we got to go with it. I went to the assistant news director's office, white female, and I was like, Kathy, this is wrong. This is wrong. She said, well, Bea, you know, we're right at the start of the show, and at that point, I'm so mad, but I'm new in this business. What can I do? This has got to change. I left there and went by my mom and dad's house and cried in my mama's lap because this was not supposed to happen. What you're doing is pushing a storyline that this is what black men and women do. He shoots people and she lays up in bed with him all day. That 3-second shot keeps that going. To me, as a woman of color, that was not acceptable because it had nothing to do with the story. But you're keeping a myth of black women going, and nobody wanted to listen. And I think that if you're in a newsroom, you have a responsibility when you see things and you know it's not right. To keep your mouth closed, to go along, to get along, is not acceptable.
You got to point it out.
Yeah, I've been spitting in a typhoon my entire career.
Well, they say if you spit in a fan, you know what's going to come
You
back.
know it's coming
you.
back,
Yeah.
but you gotta use your voice. You gotta make a stand on things that are important.
So, what does those experiences teaching you about grace, resilience, and leadership?
It has taught me to, as much as possible, not internalize things that I cannot control, but to look at what can I do to make a situation better or to change what is happening, because it becomes very frustrating when you're doing things like, if I'm talking to somebody, I know you're lying. I've trained people to do media. I know you're not answering my questions. Some of the best people that I did interviews with were politicians who could answer a question without ever answering the question. And then compliment you that was a wonderful question.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question.
The question you didn't answer. So it made me realize, put things in context. Don't let it override what you were doing or how you live your life. Let it inform you, but don't let it rule you.
Right.
Sounds like that. I remember our first conversation. Report the story, don't make the story. Has kept you grounded.
Really has.
I've heard that in this part of the conversation that keeps echoing in everything you're speaking about.
Well, people will tell a reporter things that they have not told family members. I take that as a sacred trust. I have always felt that as journalists, we should have to do something similar to what doctors do with the Hippocratic Oath. That in the process of doing what we do, we will do no harm. Inform, but try not to do any harm.
Yes.
Don't make a story. I've seen reporters who would take a story and go, this is going to be on my escape tape, which I'm dating myself by saying escape tape, but you want that story that makes the news director at the next location think that you're the best thing since sliced bread. Well, does that mean you're fudging on the story or you're sensationalizing a story of someone's life? That person probably will never be on television again. They've told you their story, but when that story comes on at 6 o'clock, is it what they told you or is it what you wanted it to be? And I think you have to be very careful about what you do with people's lives and what you say about them. You just see it as a story, but it's their life.
Data drive results. And so if you give the wrong data, it sends the wrong picture.
It sends the wrong picture, and I like telling people stories. If you listen, you get more facts, you get more information. If you tell a story, you weave a story, and then you put the facts in that story. But you don't change the story to fit what you think the storyline should be.
So you describe yourself as a griot, storyteller, entrusted with preserving history, past truths, as I heard tonight, the next generation. How does this identity shape the way you approach storytelling with integrity and care?
And you pretty much just shaped that too. You just talked about how you shape those stories.
And I think it's important. People will remember stories that touch their hearts. I did a story once, and when I talk about that may be the only story they ever done, you will do a lot of stories as a journalist. I went, it was during the 4th of July holiday. There had been a fire. It's a road where just family members pretty much lived on that road. If you're from the country, and that's how our family is in South Carolina, all your family members live on one road. The house had burned. We saw the house that was burned. We were coming down the road and we saw this other house, and there was a lady sitting on the porch. And so I told my photographer, let's stop here and I'll ask her about the fire and does she know the people who were there? Because it was a man and 2 children who died in the fire. So I went up there and she was sitting on her porch. She wasn't saying anything. And I introduced myself, told her who I was and what we were doing while we were there. And I asked her if she would mind talking to me about the fire with her neighbors. And she said, well, baby, that was my husband and 2 of my grandbabies. And I don't much feel like talking about that right now. You could have bought me for a penny. I felt that big. This woman was going through grief. It had been less than 24 hours. She lost her husband, 2 grandchildren. And here I am. Hi, can I ask you a couple of questions about this? It made me be more cognizant when you walk up to somebody and ask them, you don't know what role they may have played in whatever you're about to do, but you should be very much aware that whoever lives on that road, there's a good possibility they related to each other. I just didn't know that's how close it was, but it made me become more aware of surroundings and people and how you write the story. She said maybe later I might want to talk to somebody, but right now I can't do that. So it made me realize people are human. It's not just a story.
Right.
It's their life.
It's a truth.
You know where she's at.
It's their truth.
Yeah, she wasn't ready. So
She was not, and I was like, I apologize, and I said, thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry for your loss. And no, ma'am, I'm not coming back to ask you no more questions. Too often found ourselves in those situations. We get sent to funerals. You got to go talk to somebody at the funeral. I don't want to go talk to nobody at a funeral. Do you know what it's like to walk up to somebody who's at a funeral and they look at you as a reporter with a camera and you throwing a microphone in their face and asking them?
no compassion.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why people look at reporters like that.
Yeah, I was just talking about
We
that.
talked about that.
Yeah.
You spent your entire career serving your hometown. What does staying rooted in Charlotte mean to you personally and professionally? Because it sounds like you have such a tie to this area.
The main reason I stayed here because I did have other stations that flew me to different cities to see if I would work in Chicago, in DC, to see if I would come and work there. My main reason for not going, my child. When she was about 3 years old, we had a family reunion on the road that my mama's people are from in South Carolina. And I remember running up and down that road as a child. And she was running with her cousins, and I had her in a cute little outfit and little socks and shoes, and you couldn't tell me my baby didn't look great. I just thought she looked beautiful. And I looked, and she's running with her cousins, and her shoes were all dusty, and I was like, Jamila, look at your shoes, look at your clothes. My child stood there, and I tell you, she did this. I saw her little body go down like this, and I stopped and I said, Pooh, you want to take your shoes off? And she just looked at me and said, yes, ma'am. I said, take them off, baby, and run up and down this road as much as you want to. Because that was why I stayed. I wanted her to have a sense of her family. I wanted her to know who her people were. I knew reporters who had contracts as short as 13 weeks. You could be in a market, and if you didn't make it in that 13 weeks, you didn't have a contract. Now where are you going? And I thought I wanted her life to be more than just me chasing a career from city to city.
Kind of asked my next question, so I'm not even going to go into that one because we'll touch the end of it. That what does leadership? I'm going to change it up a little bit. What does continuing leadership look like in a family?
Someone has to make sure we don't lose our familial stories. And to a certain extent, I do that in my family. My daughter tries to make me stay. She's like, Mom, you're not going to do everything for everybody. You got to look out for you. They got to look out for themselves. So she tries to make me stay balanced in how I do it.
And you said your greatest pride is being a mother.
Yeah. Because I told my parents, this is your bonus grandbaby. I didn't promise you no babies. I promised you a degree, but I didn't promise you no babies. So she was their bonus grandbaby. They were very happy about it. But at the same time, it made me a better person and helped me to understand issues that maybe I hadn't thought about before.
Well, they grew us up too. They definitely grew us up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. At the point now, yeah, you know, why you look at your children and you say, "I'm not one of your little friends.
Yeah.
I'm one of her little friends now."
It's that on-the-job training.
It really is.
On-the-job training. We grew up as children, and we had our mothers and fathers, and then we become that mother and father, and we start to remembering those lessons in life. And then,
yeah, but you've heard your daddy come out of your mouth,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
I hear my
what did I
mama
say to
coming
you all
out of
the
me.
time? I say to you all the time, if my dad was living now,
Yep.
I could tell him how right he was.
Yeah, my kids can tell you, man, that how often I reference my mom and dad and the lessons that I've learned, the phrases. And one of the ones you said earlier was, "Let your word be your bond." That echoes with me everywhere I go, to stand on. What do we talk about all the time? Integrity.
Intentional living.
Intentionalism, having a purpose.
Yeah.
Having a purpose. So,
I think it's very important, and if we don't pass that along to our children, how do they know what guidelines to have in their lives and what they will do when they get older? So it's important for us to be able
Pouring
to do
into them so they can pour into their children. And that's watching that seed continue to grow.
that is a constant life priority of watching the cup overflow. And
Exactly.
watching it overflow into people that we really care about. And that becomes community. That becomes that neighborly law of love that we expand upon.
I think it's important, and if we don't give that to our children, nobody else is going to give it to them.
That's true.
How do you see the current state of journalism and media today with so many voices in these spaces?
I told my daughter the other day, I am very glad that I came through the industry at the time that I came through. As a journalist, it concerns me what I see now. I see people getting into the business who do not understand the tenets of journalism. That there are certain things as journalists that we do or that you should not do. And if you have studied your craft and understand that, then that's what you will do. I see when someone says, "Oh, I'm an influencer," baby, you ain't been on the planet long enough to influence nothing. Who are you influencing? How old are you, 20? Please. You got a couple more decades before you can say you can influence something. And that concerns me because as journalists, we have standards on what you do as a story and what you cannot do with a story. If you are an influencer or a vlogger or whatever, you can say things and go, "Oh, well, that was just my opinion." No, you put that out there as if it was fact. And you need to be cognizant of what you're saying and how you're saying it. I saw a lady one day, she was like, "Yeah, what is it, Charlotte? There's a little channel here, and people will shoot videos and put it up like they're reporters." And I saw this woman doing something one day, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm standing here on the corner, and they got all this going on over here. Girl, I'll come back and tell y'all what happened." I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Oh, man.
What did Dr. Thomas say? I want somebody that's trained.
Exactly. So, and it takes away from the credibility of what the industry is supposed to be about when you have people who are not trained as journalists.
Now that you mentioned that, take away from the credibility, I guess I asked this question because we talked about this the other night about why do you think some people get a negative perception about news?
The ones who find themselves in stories where the story puts them in a negative light. Now, you may have earned that in some cases, but not in all cases. And again, back to that journalist, it's not their job to make up somebody's mind. It's their job to put the information out there so that individual can make their own decision as to how they feel about a subject. But if you skew it in one way or the other, someone who does not understand what this industry is about will skew a story because it's like, he shot him. Did you see him shoot them people?
Right.
Did you see that happen? No, you didn't. You're going off hearsay. Hearsay will get you sued.
Yes.
Without even hesitating. This is a great lead into legacy and reflection because you've covered your story. And I'm sitting here overwhelmed and inspired by everything that I've heard just to hear that. And when you look at your work and you know that work speaks for you, and you said it in so many ways it should, your work should speak for you. And we talk about our parents and the generations before us, they let their work and their actions speak for them. What do you hope it says about who Bea Thompson is and what you stand for and what you stood for that is a continuation? What do you hope that legacy is for you when people look at you?
I hope that people will always feel that she told the truth. She gonna tell that story. And that's why I said seniors, their opinions meant a lot to me. Because older black people say things to you. They take their time and it's a measured response in many instances. I gotta tell you this story. When I first started anchoring with BTV and be in the morning on the morning show with Jim and Bob, and we'd be doing different funny segments and I'd do my news segments, I had stopped at a 7-Eleven on North Tryon Street, and there was a homeless man who was there. And he came up to me and he said, you that girl be on television, ain't you? I said, yes, sir. He said, can I ask you something? I said, yes, sir. He said, you be mucking with them white people, don't you? And I was like, well, he said, that's all right. Go ahead, girl. You go ahead and do that. I know what you be doing. You go ahead and do that. And it meant a lot to me because he said, I see you. I see you. I see what you're doing. They might not understand. And people may not pay that man any attention, but he said, I see you. I see you. And I understand what you're doing for folk. You keep doing what you're doing. That meant more to me than any group going, we have an award for you. No. This man, who nobody thinks is important, said, I see you. Right. And I like what you're doing.
And that was his truth.
Yeah. And it was important to me to hear that from somebody who was not just trying to get me to do a story about them. Because you get those too.
And it was almost like he was giving you his way of giving you an applause, his way of a sense of gratitude. Because you never know how your journey and how you live your life impacts the life of another. Just you living your life in a certain way and telling your story in a certain way can inspire that individual or give them that feel good. Because sometimes I see someone else walk a certain way, live a certain way, it makes me feel good that humanity is going in that direction.
We're going to take it back to community. That was Mr. James going to work every day. Yep. That was Miss Ida in the garden every day. Yep. And you saw her growing the crop. Mr. James going to work. Yep. You identify with that by community. Yeah. So those same things that you saw, they impacted you and made you say, I want to work a job. I want to take care of my family like Mr. James. So those things that you saw impact how you do things. Yeah. Yes.
It's like I did not know the impact my daddy had on so many young men until he died. And they would always talk about how your daddy could fix cars and your daddy could dress up. Now, consider the fact that for most black folks in the South, we didn't have clubs or whatever. We had liquor houses. My daddy socialized at the liquor house. I would be out on some stories. Sometimes people go, ain't you bruh's daughter? Yeah, he talk about you all the time. And I knew this is a liquor house person right here. I know you are. But at the same time, they always made me feel good because they said to me, you represent us. And we all so proud of you, baby.
Think about the liquor house. That was a spot where, in some cases, that was to let your hair down.
Yeah.
That was after the work, after a hard week, after being, during that time, after being put up against the wall and faced with adversity from every corner, socially, mentally, physically. But that was a point where you could sit down with that little spirit in you and you could let your hair down and say, man, that girl right there, she's doing it right.
Well, I didn't totally understand why my daddy wanted to go to a liquor house when I was little. I'm like, why did he do that? They didn't just bring it home. That was his social setting. He was not a professional who could go to the Excelsior when it was open.
I was going to say, that's the after work. That was the after work professional going to the 5 o'clock happy hour.
Yeah, he didn't do that. him and the people, they all went to liquor houses. Now, they knew where every liquor house was in Charlotte, but that's where they socialized.
Right.
Yeah. So, in closing, Bea Thompson, thank you for sharing your journey, your wisdom, your truth with us. Your voice has informed generations, and your integrity has set standards for all. Through your storytelling, we are reminded that truth matters, and your legacy continues to inspire. We are honored by your presence and deeply moved by your impact. May you continue to be a powerful voice for change, helping people stay connected and encouraging those who follow the news daily to stand up and stay connected to what's right.
Well, I thank you.
I agree
I
wholeheartedly.
thank you for allowing me to share my story with you and to let you know some of the things that happened in previous generations and the impact that it has today. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, thank you. You blessed us, and it was truly a blessing to hear your story.
Yes.
And as he said in the closing, I know every person that gets a chance to view this in some way will be impacted and hopefully led to tell their story.
Yes.
Thank you.